Hello guys, welcome to Motorasium. As you know, a few days ago Ferrari announced that it's going to make a full electric Ferrari in the year 2025. Just to be precise, Ferrari is already making a hybrid car like the SF90, in which there is the main engine that is a V8 petrol and 3 electric motors. But Ferrari is planning to launch a full electric car without V12, V8, no other smaller engine on the car, but only electric motors. Well, as you know, all the people that are passionate about cars starts discussing about this stuff and say, it's quite strange to see a Ferrari without a petrol engine, without the sound of Ferrari. But well guys, in this video I would like to give you my view and say why Ferrari actually didn't have any choice about creating an electric car. Now we see what's happening in the automotive industry and why Ferrari, let me say, yes, the only news about the Ferrari announcement is that the year 2025. I mean, the point was not about Ferrari to launch an electric car, but is about when Ferrari launched an electric car. Now we know that is not in the year 2030, but is in the year 2025. So, what is changing in the car world in the last years? Well, is I would say around 10 years that we were discussing about the fact that electric car will be the future of mobility in the automotive sector. Everyone was, let me say, around 10 years ago was say, yes, I'm pretty aware that in a future the car will be electric. But what's happened is that if 10 years ago you asked to managers, but even normal people, about when this shift from petrol engine to petrol and diesel engine to electric engine will happen, probably the people will say somewhere in the future, probably to year 2050 to 2060, so very far in the future. Nowadays, in the last 5 years, the things start to accelerate. The transition between petrol and electric cars is getting very fast in the last 5 years. Why? Basically for two main reasons. There are more, of course. The first one is that Tesla, from a technical point of view, improve a lot the electric cars, because in few years the batteries are getting cheaper, much more cheaper than 5 years ago. And the second point, the electric car are having better performance. I'm not speaking about performance, about speed or something like or acceleration, for example. I'm speaking about autonomy, because 10 years ago the autonomy was not such, the real autonomy was not such good, it was not enough for the most of the people. Nowadays the autonomy of electric car, as you know, is acceptable for the use for many people. The second point in which why this transition is happening so fast is the most important one. It's happened that the government from all the world are giving incentive to electric cars, and during the years the incentive are getting more and more consistent in many countries in the world. What kind of incentive? From one side, they are giving incentive for people that wants to buy an electric car. The second point, that the incentive are given to many companies that are doing research and innovation in the car business. So we have incentive from the side of consumption and from the side of corporate. Especially because since this situation is happening, many companies that in the few years ago was not thinking to enter in the electric car business in a strong way. I mean, the major corporation in the car business, like Volkswagen, for example, in the last year they start developing an electric car line very fast in a very few years, let me say. So the innovation budget worldwide, let me say, is getting very consistent, and the improvement of electric cars is very strong and very fast. So, but in the recent years is happening something more. It's not only a point of give incentive to electric car. We are having another point, that is ban the diesel and the petrol car. So the idea is to make it even faster the transition. putting, let me say, some to push people to don't buy any more petrol and diesel car. He started making some more tax on diesel and petrol car in the last years, but now many countries in the world are start to discussing about a ban of petrol and diesel car from the year around the year 2030. Well, it depends from what part of the world you're living, because this discussion is not uniform in the country in the world. But I mean, at least in European Union, many countries in the European Union are starting to discuss to ban the sales of diesel and petrol car from the year 2030, for example. And that is very important for the business. Why? Because if a ban on the sales of the car, well, first, what does it mean, the ban of the sales of new car, petrol and diesel? It doesn't mean that from the year 2030, for example, you cannot use a petrol car. It means that from the year 2030, you cannot enter in a car dealer and buy a petrol car. So if you in the year 2029 you bought a petrol car, you can continue to use in the year 2030, 2031, 32, 34, etc. But if you enter in the dealer in the year 2030 and you say what I can buy, they can sell you only electric cars. So the idea is we will have a period from the year 2030 to the year 2040 to 45 in which we will mix the car, electric car and a petrol car. But gradually, during the times, people that want to substitute the car, they can only buy an electric car, and in 10-15 years we will have on the roads only electric car. So it will be not something from one day to another, but a gradual transition that is happening faster thanks to the ban to diesel electric car. Well, what I say the year 2030, but the discussion may vary from a country to country. I make this small tab and I make some example, and we can see here what are the data that some countries are proposing to citizens. For example, Norway will be the first in the year 2025. Then we have UK, that is an important market for luxury cars, since we are speaking for Ferrari, that from the year 2030 they are planning to keep the hybrid car till the 2035. Then we have quite a lot of countries in the European Union, but then we have to consider even something else that is extremely important. That is not only a matter of countries, entire countries, but some cities or some areas, for example, I write Amsterdam or California, are making some rules that are more strict compared to the one that are making in the central government. For example, I'm living in Milan. In Milan, we have very strict rules for people that use diesel that in the rest of the Italy there aren't. So going back to the Ferrari topic, why Ferrari now don't have any choice about creating an electric car? Because these kind of rules of banning petrol cars are not rules like the ones that are now on the market, let me say. Because now if you buy a Ferrari in some country, you have to pay a lot of tax. But these kind of rules that are planning to be on the market in 5, 10, 15 years, I mean, you don't have any choice. I mean, if you have a petrol car, you cannot put the plate it because it's forbidden from the government, okay? So it means that if a Ferrari wants to continue to create petrol car, in many markets in the world, they cannot sell them in the future. I mean, if the point was about Norway, for example, that we see that in 5 years they will forbid the sales of petrol and diesel car, Ferrari can say, okay, Norway is a small country, I mean, they are rich, but it's a small country, maybe I think they will sell around 50 to 100 cars every year. Ferrari sell 10,000 cars, we made another video about the sales of Ferrari around the world, and they say, okay, we lose a market, but we continue to sell diesel. But we continue to sell petrol car. But you know when the point starts to be UK, Germany, Switzerland, California, and many countries in the world or cities in the world like Shanghai, Beijing start to forbid the sales of petrol car. it means that the Ferrari sales will be a lot less compared to today. For example, they can lose the 70% of the markets in the world because they ban the petrol car. It means that if you have a company that sells 10,000 cars like Ferrari, you cannot reduce the volumes to 3,000 because you want to continue to produce a petrol car. I mean, at this point, the only choice that you have is to introduce also and to make also electric cars. That is the only choice that Ferrari have, and that's why Ferrari is launching an electric vehicles in 2025. By the way, guys, if we think that Ferrari is planning to launch the first car in 2025, it means that they are already working on it for 2 or 3 years. So guys, what I want to say is in this moment, in this historical moment, car manufacturer, also supercar manufacturer, but in general all the car manufacturer have to plan the transition to electric car, and they don't have a lot of time, okay? Because 2030, for example, it means that given the life cycle of a car that is around 7-8 years, it means if a car manufacturer launch a model today, now in the year 2027, they probably won't invest anymore in improving the cars, because it means that in 2 or 3 years they cannot sell it anymore. So probably the next model that many car manufacturers will launch in the next years will be the last one that they will make with the petrol or diesel engine, because they will launch probably one model more and the next one will be electric. If the situation is like that, but given the trend that is, let me say, more or less worldwide in this moment, it's quite reasonable, let me say, that it is going to happen, despite we don't know exactly what's happening in the future. To conclude, guys, as a person that is passionate about the car and about petrol car, it's a bit strange to speak about an electric Ferrari. But on the other side, we have to recognize that given the situation in the world today, even supercar manufacturers do not have choice. They have to make full electric cars. I hope, and what I think is that, in my opinion, Ferrari, Maserati, Aston Martin, McLaren, what they have to do is to create probably the best electric car in the world. They have to make something that is like a Ferrari today compared to the other cars on the market. They have to create a car that will be much faster than a Tesla, for example, much faster than any other car in the market in the moment. Faster not only about acceleration but in all the aspects. So the point is not about launching electric car because it's mandatory again, but it's about to create the best electric cars in the market. So that is the challenge that supercar manufacturers have to face today, and we'll see what's going to happen. Guys, thank you for watching, and see you in another video. Thank you from Motorasium. Bye bye.